Let's go.
Hi, I'm Elena from Cross Cultural Development, and this is Bending Culture, the podcast where we dive into the real life challenges, but also the hidden opportunities of working across cultures. You will hear stories and strategies, and you will hear a few laughs along the way, all designed to help you to break cultural barriers and to turn the differences into your biggest advantages. Whether you are leading a diverse team, working in international environment, or simply curious about how culture shapes the way we connect, the way we collaborate, this is your space to learn, grow, and thrive. So let's bend culture together today. And we are doing it with a guest, always. So today's turn to bend culture with me is of Sanja Kalapos. She is a cultural competence expert. She says that her mission is to bridge cultural differences, foster understanding, and drive positive change. Sanja was born in Croatia and studied cultural anthropology. So she knows about culture much more than I do. So she is the expert here. Today, she lives in Austria and she is an experienced speaker on topic of diversity and inclusion. Her specialization is Central Europe. We met at LinkedIn, the best network platform ever, and I fell in love with her witty, spot-on posts on all kind of cultural topics, but her way of looking at these topics is so out of the box that made me really think about the stuff she is writing about. So the first call to action for today, guys, is follow her on LinkedIn if you're interested, and you will not regret it because you will get really gems of information with a personal touch. That's why I'm very, very happy that Sanja agreed to join me today and to dive into this diverse tapestry we call Eastern Europe. Sanja, welcome. Great to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. And thank you for a really, really nice introduction. I'm looking forward to talking to you.
I'm very, very honored and welcome again. So let's start with something maybe very simple, but I think that it may be very good to start with it. What is actually Central Europe? Which countries are central? Because we're talking about Eastern Europe, Northern Europe, South Europe, but what is Central Europe?
Well, it is actually quite difficult to explain because all those boundaries are not as firmly defined as one would think. What is in our minds, it is most probably the former Austrian Hungarian Empire. So it would be Austria, it would be Hungary, it would be parts of Croatia, part of Bosnia, parts of Romania, parts of Germany, of Italy, Czechia, Slovakia, parts of Poland, etc. For example, from our Viennese perspective, Poland is a very large country, but northern and eastern. But if you ask people from Poland, they will tell you we are the Central European country. So it is actually the thing of perspective. And there are some geographical units that sound very positive and some that sound quite negative, that have some kind of negative connotations and no one wants to belong there. So Central Europe sounds really very refined, very cultured, with rich history, and everyone wants to belong to Central Europe.
Everyone wants to feel central in the center.
That's true. That's the word central, but it is also connected, with imperial past, with the palaces, with arts, with the connotations that are the connotations that we have from this word in our minds, almost always positive. So it is a construct, like every geographical region is a construct, but this is a good one. Like in Europe, I would say, like Scandinavia, Northern Europe is also a very, very positive construct, and it brings a lot of positive, connotations like design, Scandinavian living, and then you have Fikai. So this is what these regions have in common, is positive connotation. and this sense of belonging, wanting to belong to Central Europe.
So we have the Northern Europe is design and high life standard. We have South Europe, it's good food and great weather. We have Central Europe, that is culture, history, music, art. And then we have Eastern Europe, which nobody wants to belong to. I think it's actually very sad. But when I was talking to somebody recently, and she said, we from Eastern Europe have a complex that we are coming from poor countries. We are somehow less, and it's very funny because I would say that the country you are coming from, I think it had a great education. I know that the university I graduated from is really high standard education. So I think that the education we get in Eastern Europe years ago, it was very, very good. And still we somehow brought up to think less about ourselves. Is it my opinion, or can you share something on this?
I think it was connected with economy, because those countries were not as rich in one period of time. And I'm thinking about Second World War until the period of Cold War, when everything was like quite stagnant at that point. But if you think about the region which is really in the east of Europe, so I'm not defining it like a bad thing. It is just geographical. It is also a place of really high culture. You have like imperial past, you have palaces, you have beautiful music and ballets and theater and literature and everything. So um, not to keep all that in mind is really a bad thing. I've been educated for the most part in Croatia, and we had to read, like, I think between 20, 25 books a year, a school year. And we did a whole, like, most of European countries covered it. So I know Russian authors, I know Polish authors, I know some Hungarian, I know Spanish and French, etc. And my daughters are being brought up here in Vienna, and they don't get to know other cultures as well. So this is something that people just don't know. People don't know that there are so many different artists and writers and composers, etc., etc. And this is one very how should I put it? This is one very strong reason why people have those prejudices, because they simply don't know. The other thing is, we are now living in the era of social media. And now we are witnessing something really great, which I find very, very great. And that is that people are reclaiming these identities as something good and something positive. So if you go on Facebook, on Instagram, people are posting like proud posts about being from Eastern Europe, reclaiming that identity as something good and something positive. And there's a very similar thing about the Balkans, for example, because for one period of time, being from the Balkans was something that no one wanted to. There were countries that were really, in that region, like Bulgaria or Turkey, parts of Greece. But all other countries were like, no, we don't belong there. But now it's like, it's okay. It's okay to be from a Balkan country. And no one is like saying, no, I'm not from there. It's like people are embracing that identity, and no one is getting angry if he or she identified with being from the Balkans. And there's been a really nice thought from a German author who said, depending on the perspective, for the North Germany, Balkan begins in Munich. For people from Bavaria, from Munich, begins on the border with Austria. In Austria, they said Balkan begins at Rennweg. Rennweg is a street in Vienna. When Vienna, after the Second World War, was divided between the American, British, and Russian forces, Rennweg was the border, and it was where the Russian part began. But from people who are from that part of the Rennweg, Balkan begins at the border with Slovenia. In Slovenia, Balkan begins at a border with Croatia. In Croatia, Balkan begins on the south bank of the river Sava. On the river Sava, on the south bank, Balkans begins in Bosnia and Serbia. And in Bosnia and Serbia, they say maybe we are partly, on the Balkans, but it is actually Romania and Bulgaria. So it is like it used to be quite negative. But nowadays, I don't hear that anymore. Actually, I hear people who say, yes, I'm from Balkans. So
And
I
I'm
think
proud of it.
that this is very, very positive change. And that,
Absolutely.
these are just notions, ideas, and they can be changed. We are the one who carry those ideas. We are the carriers of ideas. And if we say an idea is good, then it is good. If we think it is bad, then it is bad. But it is up to us to create our own identity and to define ourselves and to define how we will present ourselves to the world.
Oh, that's
I don't know if I answered your question.
a great answer. I don't remember the beginning of the question, but I have two things to say about. First of all, I never knew that you had that in Austria also was a city that divided to Soviet bloc and an Western bloc. I only knew it about Berlin. It's amazing. And it's, sometimes what you get in a history book is also defined by the governments and not what really happens in the world sometimes, right? Guys, I learned really a lot about the history part today, but I wanted to add something because I remember I was working with a group of managers, and there was an international group, and one of the questions, I don't remember why I asked it, but in the course of the training, I asked them, tell about what you are proud about in the country you are coming from and in the country you live in today, like Netherlands. And what surprised me and really like, oh my goodness, how is it possible? There were people from all kind of countries, and everybody had to say something really, really nice about their own country. And when it came to the Dutch people, the Dutch managers who were present, they were very, I wouldn't say negative, but it was somehow very difficult for them to find things they were proud of. And I was like, can you imagine that some people from Eastern Europe, and they were coming with beautiful words to say about their own country. So that I was talking about the people are proud to be of Balkans, this patriotic stuff, what we have, and we had to forget it due to all kind of stuff that happens in the 20th century. So we somehow forgot it, but now it's coming back, and this patriotic stuff is actually much more present in these countries, in the people from these countries, than in the people from the countries who are very international and very well off economically, I think. But it's my observation. But it was, when we were talking about it, I had to think about it, that how difficult it was for Dutch people to find something they are proud of in their country. And that is so strange, right?
Speak for Dutch people because everything I know is purely anecdotal because I don't know enough people. But I don't know whether it is connected to being economically well off or not, because Scandinavia is the richest part of the world, besides perhaps Middle Eastern countries who have oil. But Scandinavia is really, really rich. But you will see, national flags on every house. If you come to Sweden, I think that Sweden is the country with the most flags in the public space. Almost
really?
every has a flag, and they're really very proud for being Swedes, and the Danes are very proud for being Danes, etc. So I don't know whether it is connected with being well off,
Yeah.
or I just think it is some kind of process that every nation has to go through. Some do it later, some do it earlier, some do it repeatedly. This process of being proud.
You know what happening in the Netherlands lately, and how I witnessed it. And I think you know this. I am still, with my heart, I am still Russian, and with my mind, I'm Dutch. Sometimes I'm Dutch, sometimes I'm from outside somehow. And what I see is we have a lot of topics who started polarization within the country about historical things. For example, Dutch are the most entrepreneurial nation I have ever seen. They say that Americans are very business-like people. I think that that they're business-like, but Dutch are really entrepreneurial. You know, they have the mindset. They go, they investigate, and that was always the fact. You know, this little country in the middle of Europe, and they started trade, and they were very, very proactive, and that is still today. But somehow, because of the slavery past, we are taking it a little bit on like it was a bad thing or something, you know. And I think that history develops, and I think you know more about it due to your education and to the work that you're doing. But I think that the history develops as it develops. The slavery, how bad it was a part of the certain progress at that time. And not speaking good about it is also not to say now we need to be ashamed and downsize ourselves as nation, as a country, because there were so many mistakes made in the course of history. What do
There's any nation that didn't have a period of history when something bad was going on. Well,
Yeah.
maybe there is somewhere in the world, I don't know. But what I think is important is to learn from those situations, to correct them, to make them right, and to live the best possible lives in the moment, and try each day, every day. It is a decision that you have to make over and over and over again, to treat all people equally. And I say you need to make the decisions over and over and over again, because we are people, we are prone to making, generalizations, and our minds are just like that, because the main aim, how would I put it, the main task of our brains is to keep us safe. So the brain, as soon as we see anything, a person, a thing, an animal, anything, our brain puts it in like a category, like this is danger, this is unknown,
label?
this is, like anything. So we have to be aware of the fact that, okay, is it really a danger, or is it just my brain going on automatic?
Yeah.
So if we make ourselves fully aware of that mechanism, which is completely normal human mechanism, then we are better to ourselves and to others. And I don't think that it makes sense just to live in the past, because it is past, it is bygones. Croatia had like a really terrible war in the early 90s, from 1991 to 1995. And there are even now discussions of where were you? On which side were you? Like it is like 30 years ago. So
Yeah.
just let it go, accept that it was really, really difficult time. I know I was there. I wasn't a refugee. I was there the whole time. So I lived through it, although I was in Zagreb, which was quite peaceful in comparison with other parts of the country. So I don't think that I'm really capable of talking about what really went on, because we had it quite good in Zagreb at that time. But we had air raids, we were attacked, we were bombed, and people were killed, etc. It was a difficult situation. It was a terrible situation. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, really. But it is time to move on. The same philosophy applies to everything, actually. Learn from this situation, learn what went wrong, how to put it right, learn to recognize the patterns.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is how
What
I
you're
see. This
talking
is
about?
personal opinion, and I respect that other people have other opinions, but I don't think that living in the past does any good for any of us.
No. And if it's the past patterns that serve you today, be my guest, do that. And if it's something that make you suffer in some way or another, yeah, I think that we all want to be happier at the end of the day and not to suffer, right? But I think that what you're talking about, this capacity to take a step back and to look at the situation and try to say, okay, is it a fact or is it something my mind is telling me what it is also very, very important in cross-cultural work that you are doing, right?
To it, and you need to get to know these cultures, like values and beliefs and practices, and this is the way to show respect and to get respect. And I think that we have somehow entered an era of entitlement, I would say. Everyone thinks they're entitled to everything, to respect, to love, money, I don't know, everything. But not many people think, what can I give in return? And in many cases, you have to give something first in order to receive. When you give, you make space for receiving.
Oh, that's
This is
nice. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
a universal law, and you actually expect to be accepted, to be received, well, if you are not open to it. And to be open is, I think, the best thing you can do for yourself, even if you remain in your own culture the whole life. But being open is really something that will enrich your life immensely.
Yeah. Yeah. And then starting from the very simple thing like learning the language. I don't know how in Austria, but I think it's the same. But like in Netherlands, if you are in Amsterdam or in a big city, English is the language everybody is talking now. So don't have you don't have to learn Dutch. But if you want to show some respect and to connect to the culture, the language is the essence of culture, right?
Well, I think that there's always some kind of balance between learning the language and learning the culture. You can learn a language to some extent without learning the culture. Like you can learn grammar and you can learn words and you can learn how to speak in the most basic way. So
Yeah.
you can go to restaurant, you can find your way at the airport, etc. But if you want to really develop a skill, if you want to be a skilled uh, talker or speaker of a language, then you need to get to know the culture, to be or not to be. So you have to know that it is from Shakespeare, and it is to know the culture. And
Yeah.
it is just like a very basic example. But there are so many examples that when you speak with a native speaker and they may tell you a sentence that you completely understand on the surface level. So you understand the words and
Yeah. Oh,
you
nice.
always,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was
No,
really
it's
important. Sorry.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that it was very interesting to hear about Amsterdam and other large cities in the Netherlands, because it is the same way here in Vienna. Vienna is very, very international. Many large companies have English as their working language or as their second working language. There is a very large community of expats. And if you don't want to learn German, you don't need to. You can live in Austria just with English. But the funny thing is, you can live in Austria, in Vienna, just with Turkish, just with
Yeah.
Arabic, just with Croatian or Bosnian or Serbian, because those are really, really large communities. And you can get, like a hairdresser, you can get an electrician, you can get a babysitter, you can have your whole life, language which is
Yeah.
not German. But then the question is, where do you live? Do you
Yeah.
really live in Vienna?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you understand the place where you live?
Yeah.
It is like you are illiterate because
Yeah.
you see, the signs in the street. You see the newspapers. You hear something, you
Yeah.
live, and if you want to live in a bubble, it's perfectly okay, but you need to be aware of that fact. You need to be aware of the fact that you don't really belong, and it's up to you to make the first step. And the Austrian government and the city of Vienna are really, really making an effort to help people integrate. There are so many completely free of charge, language courses and cultural courses, etc., etc. So it is really up to you to just use those
Yeah.
opportunities. Because
Yeah.
you've come to another country, and this country is, well, you think as an expert that this country is better than your old one, and that is why you came. So why not just live your full life? Why not
Yeah.
get to know this country? Why not just embrace the whole of it?
Do you think when people are from outside Europe look at Europe, it's all one big European Union what they see, right? And they think the Americans think that the Europeans are all the same. I think the African people think the same, that the Asian people think the same. And when we're here, we are looking at our differences between German, that Germans look different at the Dutch look different at the Belgium and stuff like that. Do you think we need to focus more on similarities or on the differences we have with this big Soviet Union? Oh my goodness, that is the mistake. European Union.
It was the Freudian slip.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, I don't know if I should cut it out. Maybe I will just leave it. So it's like blunder like this. But when you're doing business or just being a citizen of European Union, should we look at ourselves more like the people outside looking at us? Let's focus on what unites us, or should we look at how different we are?
Both, because we are different. That is the fact. When someone says we want diversity, what does it mean? We already are diverse. Each and everyone is different from the other. Two people who may look the same, like we look very similar, but we are different. And it is a fact. And why not embrace it? So why not be an individual that you are? Each of us is very unique. There's only one of us in the world. And this is the same with regions, with countries, with cities, with with everything. And when we say America or Canada or I don't know, Africa, those are also very large countries or continents, and they are also very different. Someone from New York lives a completely different life than someone from Texas, and someone from a large city in Texas lives completely different life than someone from like 200 kilometers away who has a farm. So these are differences, and they do exist, and we need to be aware of them. We also have very many things in common, and those things are not just on the surface level, like the color of our skin or like the passport that we hold. These are like universal things, and you can meet a person from completely different culture, from a different continent, and you can have more in common with that person than from someone that has lived in your neighborhood your whole life. So all of it is very relative. I just think we all need to be very open to other people and to be very open to accept them as they are and to respect them as they are. And only when you are ready to do that can you ask for respect and acceptance in return. So to answer your question, I think both is okay. I think that our differences are beautiful. I really do think they are beautiful. And they make countries and cities and people on the individual level be very special and very unique. Our generation, and maybe the generation of my daughters, were the last ones who were not brought up by the internet. They got internet when they were a bit older, but we were brought up by our communities. So this is in anthropology we call it a process of acculturation. So this is a process of getting to know your culture in your everyday life. So the culture that you got as a Russian is a different culture than someone from Czechia got from their parents, from their grandparents, from their community. And it is different than the culture that someone from northern Italy got, and that is different than from someone from like the Sicily, like southern Italy. So those are really, really different cultures, different communities with different histories.
Perfect. What a beautiful, beautiful answer, guys. Because, celebrating our differences and focusing more on our similarities. This may be the only way for the happy world, for the beautiful, harmonious world we actually all dream about. Thank you very much, Sanja, for sharing your insights. And I don't know, guys, have you noticed that the way Sanja speaks about this, it's make me taken in your story, Sanja. Thank you very much. I heard so many things that I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to think about that. You gave me so many things to think about. And guys, I hope that you experience it too, because it's very, yeah, it was a very intimate story somehow. Yeah, thank you very much for talking with us today, guys. If you inspired like me about what you heard today, if you want to know more, please join me in 3 weeks for the new episode with a new guest, and we will talk about more interesting stuff. And Sanja, actually, I would like to take this opportunity and to invite you to maybe next year to join me again, because what you lastly said really resonated with me, because I'm curious for you as an anthropologist. How do you see, you said that the generations are coming who are so much more globally interconnected. What will happen to our country, cultures? Are they going to disappear? So that is the topic. I was like, okay, I would love to fantasize about it. And we both don't know the future, of course, we cannot do that. But I think it will be very interesting to talk about it. Guys, so please subscribe to the podcast. Me with my call to action to subscribe again. Yes, that's me. Leave a review, because I'm very, very curious to learn your feedback. What do you think about the episodes? Which you like more, which you like less? Which guests can we invite to talk to you? Which countries, cultures are you interested in? Until next time, this is Elena from Cross Cultural Development. Let's keep bending culture together to shape a thriving business well. Thank you, Sanja. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much for your kind words, and thank you for inviting me. And I would love to talk to you soon.
Perfect. That's a date, guys. So be prepared for next year. Thank you, Sanja. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.